Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from the CUNY TV Foundation, Capital One Bank, Genova Burns, Giantomasi and Webster, New York Community Bank, the Witkoff Group, M&T Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company. Additional funding is provided by grants from AKA Hotels, Corming Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Colliers International NYC, Cushman and Wakefield, Customers Bank, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Eastern Union Funding, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Herrick Feinstein LLP, Hersha Hospitality Trust, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides Centurion Holdings, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Matone Group, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, New Banks, People's United Bank, RBS Citizens Bank, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, Urban American, and These Friends.
A New York story. Building New York is a New York story. There are few people who really epitomize a true New York story. I mean, growing up in Brooklyn, going to the Army at Fort Dix, I don't know if you really consider that the Army, going to Ebbets Field, spending time, you know, for VE Day, you know, being like the king of Madison Square Garden, a guy who can walk around the city, who could be at Times Square on New Year's Eve. There are few people like that. I'm fortunate to have one of them today, my dear friend, my fellow friar, my good friend, Martin P. Klein. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike, for calling me a friend.
Okay, so tell me about your grandparents. Where'd they come from? How'd they arrive in this country?
My mom's parents, my dad's parents.
Okay, we start with, no, we're going to start with Louie's parents.
They came to this country, I believe, from Lithuania or Latvia.
Yeah.
And their name, I believe, might have been Gavronsky, but she was very short. And when customs or immigration, somewhere, they said, who is that? And they said, the Kleiner one. So they put down Klein,
Okay,
K-L-E-I-N.
so that's your father's side.
That's my
Okay,
dad's
and where
side.
they reside, in the Lower
Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Oh, they were in Williamsburg. They were very fancy.
Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Okay, and Rosie's side?
Rosie's side were from, I believe, Poland, Glacia, Poland. I could be wrong. And they were all cantorial, cantors of serious proportion. And they came to the country, and they also settled on the west, Williamsburg.
How many brothers and sisters did Louie have, your father?
Louie had 9, Rosie had 5 or 6, 5.
How did Louie meet Rosie?
One lived on 177 Pulaski Street, and the other lived, I think, on 162 Pulaski Street. But how they actually met, I don't know.
Now, you said there was a difference in age between Louie and
my
Louie.
dad was approximately 6 years older than my mother.
Okay. And how old were they when they got married? Rosie was what, about 22, you said?
Yeah, Yeah, they got married in 1929.
It was a very good year. Your father
Yeah.
figured
Oh.
he figured the right time. You know, it was the depression.
He had a great lady, a
Right.
pretty and great lady.
Your brother Jack was born in 1930.
Yep,
Okay, and you were born in 1935.
right.
And then your sister is.
My sister is
She's
I
the
guess
baby.
42.
You were living one apartment. Your father would change apartments all the time?
I think he couldn't pay rent, so he would go somewhere else and get a free month's rent. Yes, we moved from Midwood Street to Carroll Street to Union Street, and finally to President Street.
Okay, but before President Street, because I was very wealthy.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
yeah.
How, you tell me the time that
Union Street.
it was Union Street where you had how many residents in the house? And you were in the crib?
Yes,
Okay.
I lived in a bedroom with my mom and dad, and I was in the crib till I was about 5. And my brother and my grandmother and Uncle Ben lived in the other bedroom. And the living room, my mother used to sell things from, dresses. And when we moved to...
Then Uncle Ben moved. Uncle Ben
Uncle
got married.
Ben got married, yeah. He had to get married because my mother was pregnant.
Oh, so there was no room.
There was no room for him, and they moved, yes.
Your father was a entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur.
Yes.
Louie, I mean, we have
Louie
some
is
photos
right.
of Louie. I mean, I wonder how he was on the camel. The camel is a good one.
Camel was
He was
1960. That was in Israel.
okay, but Louie was an entrepreneur who, at one time, you said was in the dress business.
Yes, he
and
was.
and that's how Rosie sold dresses in the back.
Yes.
But Rosie's real thing was with the cantorial relatives. She was the understudy for the legendary Molly Picon.
Yes,
The
she
second,
was.
Second Avenue
Yes, she was.
Yiddish Theater.
And when she performed till the very, very end, it was excitement and fun.
But excitement and fun is your father was a true, I don't know if we'd call him a Damon Runyon, but he had a variety of businesses.
Yes, he did.
Now, people think of outdoor advertising. You know, they walk around Manhattan, they see these signs. You know, you see that. But your father in outdoor advertising, one of the great shots which we'll picture is that he had a truck, and on the truck it would say Fox Great Shows to go to the movies. His outdoor advertising were trucks. There was something called Ebbets Field. Now, certain people would advertise in Ebbets Field or Yankee Stadium on the signs. But Louie had the signs outside of the stadium. So the buildings across the street, Louie would have this type.
Yes.
This time people would smoke cigarettes.
Philip Morris.
Philip Morris.
Little Johnny.
Little Johnny, and he'd have that. But Louie was a very interesting person.
He was an exciting
Now,
person.
he was involved with the World's Fair. You even showed me a
Yes,
picture of
he
him.
was
He was
in
a vendor.
1939.
He ran arcades at
Penny Arcades in Coney Island on Flatbush Avenue.
So tell me about your growing up, okay? So President Street.
It was, when you grew up with my mom and dad, every day was almost a party. Excitement and a party.
You tell the story that you were at one time in camp and it was VE Day with your cousin
Sheldon.
Sheldon.
And it was VE Day, 1945. And he and I, and a lot of others, but he and I danced around the American flag on Victory in Europe Day. It was fabulous. Excuse me. I think it was VJ Day.
Okay. So now, what was interesting, when you were growing up, you helped out your dad. You worked at some of these arcades.
Yeah, worked in, he had an Edix, worked in an Edix. He had a stand in Manhattan Beach, worked in a stand in Manhattan Beach. But my brother and I, whatever he did, he had cigarette vending machines. We used to fill the machines, take the money. I don't know if I always gave him a good count, but it was great.
Now, so where did you go to public school?
167 on Eastern Parkway and Schenectady Avenue.
And was there a junior high school, or was that
No,
through the eighth
no,
grade?
eighth grade.
And then you went to Erasmus.
Erasmus Hall High School.
Now, for my viewing audience, people would not realize that Martin P. Klein was an athlete. You were a football player?
Yes, I was.
A basketball player?
Yes, I was.
Baseball too?
Not real. I was an athlete. I mean, punch ball.
But you were on the team.
Never on the baseball team.
But
no.
you were on
no.
you were on football?
Yes, on football and baskets.
For Erasmus.
Yes.
The legendary Erasmus Hall.
Yes, Alberdane was the coach.
Now, you tell me the story that since you were tough
Marty.
Tough Marty, that you spent a little extra time at Erasmus Hall.
I spent an extra semester.
Yeah, and tell me the story about the time that your father had to go down to the detention to see the principal.
He met the dean, and I was there. They would not allow my mother, Dean Kurt Zimmerman. And all of a sudden, they looked at one another, the dean of Erasmus and my father. They said, I know you, I know you. You got that game in Coney Island. Yeah, and you got the Penny Arcade. Next thing you know, they were talking only business, Coney Island. The bell rang, and the dean said to my father, Lou, he's in your hands. We'll forget about the 200 detentions. Make sure he does well. My father looked at me and said, son, he has my word. And from that day on, I finished high school.
And what do you do right after you finish high school?
Volunteered for the draft. 60 years ago, I went in today.
You volunteered for the draft because this was, what year is this?
1953.
1953. The Korean conflict is on.
They had signed a ceasefire at that time.
So you joined the military, and you spent, 2 years in the military.
Yes, I did.
You spent most of your time, okay, and Tough Marty now becomes
Martin P.
Martin P. You're in Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Yes.
Okay, very far.
Yes, it was a long ride home to meet Barbara.
Right.
Every week.
Who you met when she was 14 years of age.
Yes, and still holding hands.
Right. What was the category that they gave you?
Oh, actually, it was clerk typist.
That was the last one. I thought you originally started.
Oh, what? Heavy weapons infantry. 1812. It was that's where you took 16 weeks of basic training, and 8 weeks of heavy. And then by some stroke of luck, they needed a clerk typist, and I was a clerk typist, and I worked the mailroom, and I worked in the officers club. And then I got involved with sports, and I became...
And what were you doing in Maine? You said to me...
Not Maine. I was in Cape Cod.
Cape Cod, right.
I was the post-athletic director. We trained National Guard troops for the summer.
Wait a second. You were in the military, and this is what your job was?
Yeah, I was the one who ran the athletic department from... It was a difficult time to be in Cape Cod, May 1 till October 1. You know, it was warm and sunny, but that's where we trained National Guard troops.
So now this is 1955, correct?
Yes.
And you finish your military requirement.
Yes.
And you come back to Brooklyn.
I sure did.
And what do you do?
Went to Brooklyn College and worked a little bit in restaurants.
There was something called Howard Johnson.
Yes, there were.
There were so many Howard Johnson with, what, the 28 flavors? Or
28 flavors.
28 flavors of ice cream. And you were a waiter.
Busboy or waiter or counterman.
And you were on the Howard Johnson in Times Square?
49th Street at Broadway, down on 74th Street in Broadway, Greenwich Village, Flatbush Extension, no, Flatbush,
Avenue.
Flatbush and Fulton, right. Yeah, I've worked in a lot of them different times.
So it was Brooklyn College for 1 year.
A little bit more, yeah, a year.
And then you go to NYU downtown.
Yes, I went to the School of Commerce.
You get married to Barbara at this time.
Yeah, I got married a long time. I was in NYU a long time.
Right, okay, so you get married to Barbara, you move to Forest Hills, and Stephen is born later on. And
Mindy first.
Okay, Mindy's first. So what do you do? What are you doing? How do you ever get into the insurance business? I mean, you're in the signs.
Purely by accident. I was in the sign business. I was applying for another job in the outdoor advertising business. I met somebody named Stan Langer, who was a very close friend. He worked in the insurance business. We went for a second job interview. He got the job, left the insurance business, and I went into the insurance business and left the advertising business
So tell
with,
me,
with Sheldon Klein.
now Sheldon Klein, this is the same Sheldon Klein that you went to camp.
Yes, he's my cousin and close friend.
And Sheldon, was it a coin toss that S&M Klein was created?
Yes, yes.
Best 2 out of 3?
No, we only one coin toss.
One
He
coin.
won.
So he won.
And it became S&M Klein Company.
And then what really happens to you is sometimes you get lucky and you're a hard worker and Martin P., no longer Tough Martin over here,
I was not. I was Martin
Okay.
P.
finds a company called Kaufman Carpet. Tell me what happens. And that really changed your career, right?
I had the good fortune of insuring Kaufman Carpet, Mr. Kaufman, Mr. Schoen. And the commission was good enough and large enough that I could give up my part-time jobs as a waiter and really plow through the insurance industry. And I did very, very well.
Now, at that time, you also, during the period of time, there were certain interesting people, the legendary Mr. Trout from Dreyer and
Well,
Trout.
that was through Jerry Schrager, my brother.
Right, and you met people, I mean, and in the insurance business, you insured some of the biggest advertising companies, Van Wagner, and you still do.
Van Wagner's
Right.
an important friend.
And you were also the insurance broker to Donald Trump,
For a
Peter
while,
Calico,
yeah, for a while.
and other people. But now, one of the businesses, which is interesting, that S&M Klein, there was also Annunziato?
Annunziata, Joseph Annunziata.
You and Joseph Annunziata also had a part-time insurance
Yes,
business.
we did. We were partners. We had a partnership of sorts.
Now,
yes.
when you were partners with him, you were able to insure the legendary rifle,
Terrasegna,
the gun club.
the Italian gun club.
And once you broke up,
I had to just insure the Hebrew University.
now what was interesting that you said to me, and it goes back to perhaps the days of Ebbets Field, Yankee Stadium, the Polo Grounds. Was when you always loved Madison Square Gardens. And when somebody goes to a game at Madison Square Garden with Martin P., you don't need tickets because everybody knows Martin P. You've been going to Madison Square Garden since what,
My whole life, but to this one since 1967.
This one, to 1967. You went to the original Madison Square, the 8th Avenue.
8th Avenue, yes.
Did you go with your dad to that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So you went there, but you've been, you're like a fixture at Madison Square Garden. You go to, and you told me your first tickets that you bought were up, what were the,
In the balcony.
What we
Section
call it?
404.
Section 404. And, you've loved sports, So besides the garden, where else have you resided in the sporting world, okay?
In the sporting world, I love sports, and my children do, and my grandchildren. I love the U.S. Open tennis with a passion.
Right,
That's a county
but the
fair
Knicks,
for the rich.
the Rangers.
The Knicks, the Rangers, the Giants.
Now, how'd you get the
Yes.
Giants? I mean, the Giants are like generations, right? This is New York.
Well, I happened to inherit 4 tickets from my father, and I still have them. I'm not a baseball person,
Yeah.
but the other sports and the
Now-
U.S. Open, I
Now,
love.
what's interesting is you said that Stan Langer, besides being helpful in the insurance business, Stan Langer got you into the Friars close to 35 years ago.
Yes.
So tell me about how you feel about the Friars Club.
But I feel the Friars Club is truly, oh God, it's wonderful. You never leave the Friars Club, never. That you don't feel better than you did when you walked in. There's a warmth that generates from the walls, and the people just have a good time.
Yeah, but you're at the Friars. I'm there at nights most of the time to work out. You're there to open the club, okay?
I use the gym in the morning. It's a great gym. I mean, I'll admit it doesn't look like I use it every morning, but I do. But then again, I use a lot of restaurants all day long.
Saturdays, for many years, you and your buddies would take walks around the city of New York, the same way I do. I walk around and look, and you and the boys, you know, you'd go to Santa's Playland.
Oh, God. Wait a minute. We've been walking now for so long, but we took the subway, and by the way, maybe one of us even has a Rolls Royce, I don't know. We took the subway to Coney Island, walked the boardwalk, walked Steeplechase Pier, had frankfurters for breakfast, not lunch in Nathan's. We walked Times Square, we walked the park. You walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, it's fabulous. You see everything, it's wonderful.
You know, you talk about Times Square.
Oh.
I mean, tell me about the time that Barbara dropped the ball, because at that time, the ball in Times Square, I mean, this is something, you know, people go to Times Square, but there aren't many people who could say that they were there for dropping the ball.
My wife, Barbara, through the courtesy and the sweetness of Richard Shapps, dropped the ball on New Year's Eve. Actually, it was an apple because it was during the Koch presidency. And it was just so exciting and so wonderful. I'll never, ever forget it.
Now,
And Times Square is still the best place in the whole world.
Now, another thing is I have a picture, which we're going to make sure that is shown, of you cleaning up Times Square after the ball. Well, how'd that happen?
Well, actually, on January 1, 2000, the new decade, and we walked, of course, to Times Square. And, of course, I got one of the sweepers to give me the broom so I could help him sweep.
You've loved the lights of Broadway. Tell me about Broadway.
Well, I love the theater. My first date, I took my little girl Barbara to see South Pacific. We sat in the next to last row in the balcony. And as they say, we're holding hands ever since. Broadway is fabulous. You go there, people are speaking every language under the sun. They all want you to take their picture.
And then you even attempted to be an investor, an angel.
Yes, I have been an angel in a couple of shows. This much. In fact, I even made money.
Okay, that's even better.
But that's a rarity.
And then another part of New York is the races, the horses. Tell me about how do you get involved with horses?
My parents loved going to the track, and it went on and on. And when we decided, my firm, what are we going to do to bring the people? And at Belmont on Fridays, we would make a picnic, and we would invite a couple of hundred people to the picnic, and so forth. And when my wife had a special birthday, we had a race named Bob's Bash, and had a whole bunch of people in a luxury room in the Belmont, and it was fabulous.
Now, did you ever buy a piece of a horse, or that you kept away?
Yes, I did, but they were trotters, and it's a long, long, long time ago.
Now, another part of life that you've done all the time is that you, whenever Saratoga opens, you go to Saratoga.
Go to Saratoga with Barry and Rochelle every year, and we have a wonderful time. And a gamble, eat in every wonderful restaurant there is. It's good.
So let's talk a little bit about the family. Your love of your life, who I've seen a picture when you met her when she was 14, I believe.
Yes.
You and Barbara have been married a couple of years.
56.
56 years. And you have two wonderful children, Mindy and Stephen. But from Mindy, you have two
grandson and a granddaughter. They're great.
And the names of your son, the grandson, and
Eric and Ronnie.
Right, and Stephen. Tell me about
Stephen and Debbie, his wife, 2 children. Brittany, who just got married to Dave, and Chelsea, who's an exciting person.
Now, you told me that unfortunately Louie was taken away too early in his life.
Almost 50 years ago.
Almost 50 years ago. but Mom, Rosie, you spoke to every day of her life, okay? And Rosie died at the age of 96.
Yes.
But I
Might
think
have been 97.
96, 97. Tell me the story of the day.
She was a great, warm person, sang. In fact, then Friday before, she was the cantor
At the
at
assisted
her
living,
the
right.
facility where she stayed.
Right, so-
Every Friday. And I would call her and I'd say, Mom, do you know the words to this song? And she says, what? And I told her, yesterday I heard a lover's sigh. And she proceeded to sing, it's tut tut tut. She sang the whole song on the phone. And I said, Mom, how do you feel? She says, I don't feel so good, I'm gonna lie down. And that was it. Actually, she was 97 and a half.
Okay. So you know what? There are New Yorkers. And when I created Building New York Stories, it was to talk about New Yorkers. And I'm happy that I did the life story of my dear friend Martin P. Klein. And thanks for being here.
I love New York. I don't want to be anywhere else in the whole world.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.